A question came up. I did this workshop on elite performance, and one of my friends was there. He's an Olympian, multiple Olympian, great guy. It's funny, I worked with him when he was in high school, and our lives keep coming back. And saw him at a track meet, and he wanted more clarification on something, which it makes me happy. We were talking about the role of strength training in elite athletic performance. And, it's almost a given. So you have to be careful, because it's like since about the late 40s, early 1950s, just about every elite athlete in the world strength trains at some level somehow. Well, one of the things that kind of came up is, and he liked this, is how I said in 1975, the world of strength training flipped upside down because of the book Arnold, The Education of a Bodybuilder, and then 2 years later, Pumping Iron. And I don't want to go in a ton of detail because I've talked about this practically in every book I have, but it comes down to a pretty simple thing. And I just want to real briefly go over what we talked about yesterday, because I always think there's value in this. I always tell people that muscles do, strength training does three things for you. And it's called the 3 Ps, the 3 Ps. And of course, as always, I have to make an idiotic joke, but that's what I do. So the first P is point. So one of the things I'm trying to teach my athletes to do, and you and anybody else who comes across, is I want you to have this ability to survive forces from every direction, including gravity. My key cue in throwing and weightlifting is stay tall. And one of the things I'm always trying to get you to do, whether we're talking about squatting, kettlebell swings, the Olympic lifts, is get tall. Boom, stay tall, stay tall. When you're sprinting, as appropriate with your technique, staying tall is almost universally a good thing to say. As a coach, when in doubt, say stay tall or go, go, go. That's universally a good thing to do. Well, this is the role of tension in the weight room. I want you to build you so that you can deal with the forces from any direction. I think you have to be careful on talking about core training, or even, as some people now call it, the column. Somebody had another name in the comments, and I forget what it was, but it's not important. But I mean, the concept's important, but what you call it isn't. But one of the reasons I push suitcase carries so much, including the marching in place varieties, is because as you alternate feet, there's that moment where your body has to kind of relock and reload to keep you vertical. Many of the exercises I promote, push-up position planks, the vertical plank where you take a strand or a Dynamax stretchy and pull it down vertically from the ceiling. You can do it from the sides also. That's actually pretty good. Doing the vertical plank with a band connected to like a doorknob or a pole or something like that. I'm standing here, but the direction is 90 degrees away from me. It's an amazing way to teach or, kind of show yourself what you're trying to do in certain movements. So I think that's why I like the overhead squat and the goblet squat so much when I'm training young athletes or people new to weightlifting, is it teaches you to stay, kind of stiff, to point. The next one, of course, is poke, and that is that, that's how you type, but it's that voluntary muscular action. And I see people do this sometimes in gyms where they don't really have a lot of load, and it's almost the same as typing. But I mean, I don't know if they're getting work or not. I don't. It's not my job to judge. But they'll be doing an exercise, and they are using their voluntary muscles to do the leg extension or the leg curl or whatever. And I got to tell you, there's great value. By the way, there's great value in all three of them. But the third level is what I called snap. Okay, there's where the bad joke comes in. The 3 Ps: point, poke, snap. It ends in a P. Well, snap is this, and we talk about this a lot, is that if I'm trying to make a noise, and I can do that over and over, and I can really hit it, but it's not going to make as much noise as when I snap my fingers. when I'm working with elite performance, in most of the things I coach and teach, we focus a lot on this idea of snap, or the phrase I use now, snapacity, which is the ability to do repeated snaps over and over and over again at a high level. I coach my throwers to kind of think that the body is just a collection of rubber bands, and we don't throw the discus, we snap the discus. It's called pre-stretch back in the day, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch of wonderful terms to explain it. It's the reason that when you go up to make a jump, you go down first. You pre-stretch, you preload. It's why when you shoot a bow and arrow, you pull the string back to let it fly this way. And you'll notice that I use the bow and arrow. I use the bow and arrow in throwing. I use the bow and arrow in the Olympic lifts. I use the bow and arrow in the kettlebell ballistics, because it's such a good way to explain what I'm trying to get across. So we had this kind of fun little discussion, and I have nothing against bodybuilding. In fact, of course, we all use it. There's great value to it. But what I said basically is probably the best way you could probably do a bicep exercise ever is to make sure you do all the major functions of the bicep, so you're going to curl it, you got to twist it, and then you got to pin it to your shoulder. And if we could somehow put some electrodes on there somehow and just, flick a switch and just light up the bicep so that every single muscle fiber, got a little contracted, because the job of all a muscle does is contract. And when it's amazing when you do something like throw the discus or the javelin, to orchestrate those contractions is the beauty of sport. Doing that would probably be a really interesting way to build the bicep. The downside is, of course, you probably couldn't use that arm for a few days, and that would be an interesting training program where on a whole body jolt workout. I don't know how long it would take to recover. I know when I'm at St. Mary's and we do that restriction training with me, my arm is worthless for days. And that's one of the reasons I'm not necessarily a huge fan of it. For rehab, I get it 1,000,000%. But for training athletes, losing 3 or 4 days is tough to come back to. So doing this might really be great for the hypertrophy, for the growth of that muscle, but it wouldn't necessarily make the muscle into a better discus thrower or javelin thrower muscle, if you understand that. So when you're thinking about what you're trying to do in the weight room or in any training system, keep in mind, and that's why you need all three. You need the point exercises. That would be your plank family. You can do that's one of the reasons I like quarter squats and those top end deadlifts where you put the weight fairly high, lockout deadlifts are sometimes called. I like the idea of pulling, 700-800 pounds off the rack and just standing with it. And you'll notice the shaking that goes on with the body. And those are your point muscles. The poke muscles, well, everyone knows how to do that. That's your 3 sets of 8. That's your, push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry. It's whatever you do. But don't forget, you also have to train the snap. Yes, I think that ballistic exercises help teach it. Snatch, clean and jerk with the barbell family. In the kettlebell family, the snatch, the clean, the swing. And you can also do swings with and all this with other pieces of equipment too. I'm a big fan of, doing some bounce training, something as simple as high knees and butt kickers on your way up to, exaggerated strides and bounding. If it works, you can certainly go from there to higher and higher different things. Your mileage may vary, but for me, butt kickers, high knees, bouncing, hill sprints have been the best plyometric work I've ever done. Once we go from there, I don't see the benefits as much. Your mileage may vary. But I just wanted to share that with you in the beginning because I thought I wish you could have been there for the conversation. It was really interesting. When you're at track meets, there could be some time, there's some times where not a lot's going on. So it's nice to have friends around so you can talk. And it's nice to talk about more than just whatever happened to Charlie or whatever. It's kind of nice to have a conversation like this. So thank you, Dave. And I know you're listening, Dave Blair. I know you're listening, and I just really appreciate the chance for me to share this because I thought the question was excellent. And in a way, I wish we would have had it at the workshop. Appreciate it.